Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, breaking down the latest Chelsea news on a regular basis. Hope you're doing well and keeping the nerves in check on this Thursday as we get closer and closer to the Champions League final on Saturday. As you've seen on the channel, the build-up has started to be uploaded on the channel. Of course, Adam Newson, Football London reporter yesterday, basically a half an hour discussion on the game. So please go and check that out. Dan McCarthy, another guest on the channel this week. The first part of our discussion on Tuesday was all about transfers, and that relates to what we're speaking about today in Let's Talk Chelsea. But the second part of our discussion out soon is all about a tactical sort of breakdown of the game on Saturday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Before we get into any of the good stuff today, the news surrounding Romelu Lukaku and also for Fikayo Tomori's future, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads as we get closer to the Champions League final. Also, do me a massive favor on this Thursday by hitting that like button because it helps out the channel as well. But I feel like we have to talk about Lukaku. We have to talk about Antonio Conte leaving Inter Milan, because it's a game changer. It absolutely is. When I spoke to Dan McCarthy on Tuesday about the Lukaku situation, you know, Conte hadn't left yet, and I think that is such a big moment, I think, this summer. I think it really is. I think it changes the dynamic. I think all of us now feel a lot more hopeful that Lukaku could be making a long-awaited return to Stamford Bridge this summer. It could provide Chelsea with the striking solution that we desperately need going into next season. This came out from Fabrizio Romano, but there had been sort of murmurs and sort of rumours that Conte could be leaving the San Siro this summer, but then it got confirmed basically. But the reasoning behind it, as you see on screen now, Fabrizio Romano, Inter will announce in the next hours the separation from Antonio Conte. They decided to part ways because Conte wanted new signings and clear project to win again. Inter need to sell players for €80 million profit this summer due to financial situation. The investment, a new investment into got, that some people felt that was going to change the situation, but it clearly didn't change it enough to convince Conte to stay, and they still need to sell big players. Apart from Lukaku, I believe Martinez and Hakimi, two players that have been linked with Chelsea before. I mean, what players aren't linked to Chelsea? But those were two players I think I've discussed on the channel before that need to be sold. But you feel like out of those three, Lukaku is going to be the one that could probably make the most amount of money for into this summer, and that very naturally leads into Chelsea. And Chelsea going in for Lukaku, he's been my number one option for a while now, as I'll get into once again, as I discussed on the channel in recent days, why he's my number one option, why I think he's the best option you can get, I think, as close to a safe bet in terms of a striker. I'm pretty confident will come back to the Premier League and start scoring goals consistently for Chelsea again. His track record is incredible, we'll get into that, but also just, I think Harry Kane's unrealistic. It's quite clear now that Chelsea are moving further and further away from dealing with Mino Raiola and getting Erling Haaland. The wages are just absolutely ridiculous on that front, so I think Lukaku seems to be prime target, and I absolutely love the idea of Lukaku returning to Chelsea. But Kevin Palmer from Sunday World was reporting last night, not only in terms of Lukaku being the big option, I also want to mention Matt Law, who was talking about the other day in terms of Declan Rice, was on the London is Blue pod. I'll leave a link in the description box below. The London is Blue pod have Matt Law on pretty frequently, so please go and listen to the full episode. Don't just listen to what I'm saying. Basically, he did talk about Lukaku, so please go and listen to that because he does talk about the Lukaku situation post Conte leaving. So it's always interesting to listen to Matt Law, and go and support the London is Blue pod guys in the link below. But Kevin Palmer here from Sunday World talking about Chelsea finalising their transfer wish list as their leading target is revealed, and he talks about Lukaku. Sunday World revealed earlier this month that Inter Milan striker Romelu Lukaku and Borussia Dortmund forward Jadon Sancho are high priority targets for Chelsea, and while both deals will be expensive, club officials believe they are in a position to strike a deal few other of their rivals could consider this summer. With so many clubs around Europe struggling to overcome the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich is ready to back Tuchel to add the final pieces to his jigsaw that will transform Chelsea into title challengers. Several Chelsea players are set to leave the club this summer, with the sales of Kepa Arrizabalaga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ross Barkley, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Tammy Abraham likely to raise a healthy sum that will all be ploughed back into Tuchel's transfer kitty. I have mentioned the selling of players before. Another player he doesn't mention is like Emerson, for instance, and some of the loan army like Timothy Bakayoko. There are other names too out there that we can mention that could be sold this summer and make a profit for Chelsea, which is a positive. That could really help Chelsea. We spoke about Declan Rice and potentially Tammy Abraham being used in that deal. That could help bring the fee down. In the case of Lukaku, it massively helps us signing there. I will talk about the Callum Hudson-Odoi situation soon. Of course, that has been linked to Jadon Sancho and Borussia Dortmund's interest, but I want to speak about Lukaku and Tomori today, but I'll probably do a news video tomorrow actually on that potential swap deal, because I think it's really interesting also to just speak about Hudson-Odoi in his future, because that's always something that gets brought up pretty frequently. But Lukaku, man, you need to get the deal done for me. If Chelsea want to have standards again, if we want to compete seriously for a Premier League title, if we want to not be the XG Kings anymore, you need to sign a serious finisher. I mean, I was going through Lukaku's career since he went on loan to West Brom in 2012-13, and just going through his record of goals each season since then. I mean, it just paints the picture of someone who is so reliable and has only got better throughout his career. This is a ruthless finisher that Chelsea need, and Chelsea have lacked since letting Diego Costa go. Funnily enough, think back to 2014, a big reason why Lukaku left Chelsea in the first place was because of us signing Diego Costa. But let's look at his career right now. From West Brom, 17 goals in 12-13. Everton, 16 goals in 13-14. 20 in 14-15. 25 in 15-16. 26 in 16-17. Then, of course, moving to Man United in the summer of 2017, where Chelsea nearly signed him, re-signed him back then. 27 goals in 17-18. Had a lower scoring season in 18-19. Struggled. That was probably one of his worst seasons of his career, but still outscoring Timo Werner this season. It still would have been Chelsea's top goal scorer of only 15 goals if, of course, he was playing for us this year. But then since moving to Inter Milan, he's gone to another level. 34 goals last season and 30 goals in 44 appearances this year that have led Inter to their first Scudetto in a while. And it very much felt like the relationship between Lukaku and Conte was a key reason why that was working, and why, if Conte would have stayed, the possibility of us signing Lukaku, I think, would have been more unrealistic sort of for them to go again, because Lukaku is probably happy in Inter, obviously, happy with working with Antonio Conte, getting him to new levels in his career. He said as much in his Instagram post, saying goodbye to Conte and saying thanks to Conte's work with him. So this opens the door. It doesn't mean that it's just going to happen, and it does mean that it's going to cost a lot, but Chelsea have to be aggressive. The door has been slightly ajar, I'd say, for this deal. So Chelsea have to go and make this happen for me. Even if it is after the Euros, I know people want this done as soon as possible. Of course, you'd want to for peace of mind. But Harry Kane probably ain't going to happen. Haaland, ridiculous wages. Lukaku is the Amazon Prime forward. Other than Harry Kane, he's one that you have so much confidence in the Premier League. There's no questions over Lukaku for me. I think it's absolutely silly. And he's transformed his game, and he's gone to another level at Inter creatively too, that I just think would elevate our forward line so much. I think Reece James would benefit off it. I think Reece James wouldn't have so many stolen assists. I think he'd be one of Chelsea's best creators. I just think this is the guy. If you think Chelsea are a big club, if you think Chelsea should be competing for a Premier League title, if you're constantly someone that talks about Chelsea standards, whatever they mean, Lukaku is one of those players that you have to bring in to take the club to the next level. If we don't, and we let Tammy Abraham go, as I brought up before, I think we could be in serious trouble next season. That's not to say that Timo and Kai won't have better goal scoring seasons next year, but Lukaku is the Amazon Prime forward that we need this summer. Let me know your opinions about Lukaku. Do you think this Conte thing opens the door for Chelsea this summer? I think Lukaku and Chelsea, I think this is going to be a saga we're going to be talking about this year. And I think other than Harry Kane, I think this could be one that could have a really positive ending this summer. So make sure you stay tuned on the channel for Lukaku news, and as well give me your thoughts in the comments below. But I also wanted to speak about Fikayo Tomori. Simon Johnson wrote this piece after the provisional England squad was released. Just to let you know, guys, I will be covering England and the Euros this summer on the channel. So that will be happening post the Champions League final. I didn't make a video surrounding the England squad because it's so big. I will probably do a reaction video when Gareth Southgate finalises his final squad, basically. So the squad that will be going to the Euros this summer and competing for us. I felt that that's such a big squad, and there are so many names that you could go overboard with who I don't think will actually be in the final squad. And of course, we could have injuries until then, basically. So we have to wait and see for what the final squad is. But Fikayo Tomori was left out. He wasn't involved in the squad, and a lot of people were disappointed because of how well he's done for AC Milan since going out on loan in January from Chelsea. And sort of the piece was about Tomori has every right to feel hard done by after being left out. But Simon Johnson does a note here surrounding his future at Chelsea, or not having a future at Chelsea. As part of the loan deal with Chelsea, a clause worth £25 million plus £5 million in add-ons was agreed to make the switch permanent. Now that they have secured Champions League football and the finances it brings, they are expected to trigger it. One source told The Athletic that he doesn't expect Tomori to return to Stamford Bridge and the deal will happen. I've constantly brought up the name of Tomori, as we constantly hear about Chelsea maybe not going in for a centre-back this summer. We speak about Mark Guehi, who I think absolutely deserves to return to Chelsea this summer and be given a chance under Thomas Tuchel, whether Chelsea actually need to invest in that area. And Tomori, and it is quite galling actually that I think two of the three will go. I think Tomori and Tammy obviously will be leaving the club this summer. But the fact that we could actually have more than that, Callum Hudson-Odoi, even if it was a loan, I know that seems unrealistic at the moment, but if that situation was to happen, Tomori, Tammy and Cho all leaving in one summer. I don't think that's a great look for Chelsea. I really don't, especially with the talent of all three of these players. But in the case of Fikayo, I think we've known for a while now that this was going to happen. It makes sense for him, being, basically, an outcast under Lampard, going to AC Milan, the opportunity to have a career at AC Milan. I think he's flourished there, he really has. He's left their captain on the bench. He has been extraordinary, he really has, and showing the potential that we saw a glimpse of under Lampard. And it's such a shame, but not everyone can make it. I still do think this could be a mistake, but I think it all comes down once again to Chelsea's business. This is a general point for me, like Tammy Abraham. It's about reinvesting in the squad properly. You don't want to be in a situation in 5 years' time, or even 2 years' time, probably less than that, where we regret selling Fikayo Tomori, where we regret selling Tammy Abraham. That's not what you want. I think it's on the club that you need to invest properly in the first team squad and get players that are ready-made, that are actually of a top quality level, that you can understand not having players that maybe not at their full potential yet. But Tomori is a brilliant player, he really is. But it just, that whatever my feelings on Tomori and feeling that I absolutely think this is a mistake, and I think it is based on the evidence of Chelsea's business. I think this will be a decision that comes back to bite us, I think, in the future. But having said that, it looks like he's going to move on now. Let me know your opinions on Tomori in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.